The 7th of February 2025, you're welcome back. It's dry, it's overcast, there's a little sun, and there's a little bit of wind coming from the southeast. So conditions are not too bad here in rural Ireland. This is about generators, and this is a technical subject, and there are risks involved to those using them, and I can't take liability for how anything's used. All I can do is give the best advice I have, more based on economics than anything else. Now, if we had a bad storm, at the end of January, we had a bad storm and bad wind, and it knocked out a lot of the power, electricity, and it knocked out the internet. I still haven't the internet back. There's a wire cut down there, and it'll be ages before they come out to me. Anyway, I had generators, a petrol and a diesel, and so I got over it okay. But many people were left with no power for long, and some of them still haven't got the power back. Now, if you are milking cows and the power goes off, then a generator is absolutely essential. If you're not milking cows, it's not so essential, because the one thing doesn't understand anything about special concessions from government and all of that is the cow. The cow is independent of the weather altogether. Okay. Now, the first advice I'm going to give you on generators is don't buy anything. They're going into the farm supply shops and the equipment supply shops all over Ireland, and they must have bought 20 million euros worth of generators in the last week. They're bringing stocks in by air, and it's stupid. This blackout might not happen for another 18 years. So if you're 50 now and your electricity went off, you could be 68 by the time another one goes off. So there's no need to panic. If the power's back on, it's back on for the immediate future. Now, there are blackouts promised, and there are two fossil fuel power plants planned, one for Meath and by SSE and one for Tarbert and Kerry. As we discover, and as the country discovers what I told them long ago, wind energy doesn't work. It's a net consumer of electricity more or less over a year, and solar power doesn't work at night at all. That's something they never thought about. Anyway, we'll not go in there, but we will. If there's to be no electricity at all in Ireland, or if it gets so expensive that we can't have it, then we'll have to think strategically. We just can't make a knee-jerk reaction. The worst thing you can do now is go in and buy a generator. If you have cows and you still no sign of it coming back, that's all right. You have to do it. If during the day after the electricity went off, you bought one, well, at least you needed it, and you needed it to keep your cows milked. If you're only a householder, that's a different thing. Many houses were abandoned where they're all electric with pump systems and heating systems of all that. Now, one thing the shutdown taught people was without electricity, you have no heating, you have no internet, you have a lot of things goes. The whole thing's depending on the electricity. Now, so the first thing is you need to carefully analyse or get help analysing what exactly you need, what your needs are. You would need, if your needs are 60% or 600 or 6,000, you need about another third. So your generator would need to be 3/3 to supply a load of 2/3, if you know what I mean. So suppose the load is 2,000, you'd want a 3,000 generator. You want a little bit of extra power. Now, as you put the load on generators, you'll hear them slowing up. You'll hear the governors opening, and there's a certain optimum load, but you don't have to worry about that too much. Once you have a little extra capacity. Now, if you're milking, you need to check your milking demands. You need to check it. You need to put some type of an amp meter on it. You know the voltage, and you need to see what your milking machines are drawing, and the lighting for your parlour and your cooling tank and all that. And that could be probably better done by a professional company or a good electrician, a good sparky. I won't advise you on that, but you need to know what it is, and you need to get one with a little extra power. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing is petrol generators. Small generators are handy, little Honda type ones with the tank on top, but they constantly have the problem that they have a float in the carburetor and that float always gives trouble, always. And people will post underneath, oh, they're easy enough fixed. We're talking here about a household inside in a town where neither the woman or the man has a monkey's notion about any of this stuff. I'm using equipment all of my life and built engines on lathes. And I still haven't fixed my one. It started giving trouble the other day. And it went for years. I got 2 or 3 years out of it. There's probably bits you can get. I haven't time for that. So for that reason, the petrol engine is handy, lets you out. If you have it running and you test it frequently, it's all right. But don't forget, if the float sticks, the petrol will run out on the door. And if you have it in your garage, it'll wet your whole garage and leave it a fire hazard. Could affect your insurance. I don't like them. They're handy, they're light, but I don't like them. And that is the big problem. The other thing with them is if the intake filter gets wet, the air filter, it'll not run and you need to dry that out. So you get what you pay for. You'll buy them at about €1,000. I personally don't think they're a great idea. Now the next thing is the diesel generator. Of course, with the diesel generator, if the tank is on top of the pump, the diesel pump, it can't run out. The diesel cannot run out through the pump. The pump is designed so that it's impossible. There's no such thing as a float or anything in them. They're a much better proposition. Koshler makes one. That's the kind of one I have. It's a Lamborghini or Koshler single cylinder. The rattles of it is unbelievable. It'd put you out of the country with the noise of it. I had it at the door of this old house, but it cooked and everything. And as the cooker would be switching on and off, you'd hear the pull coming on the engine. All right, if you're not milking, then I suppose a 4 kilowatt would do you. 4 kilowatts is the one I have. The petrol one is 2.5 kilowatts. Okay, you have to buy. But why would you bother buying? As I say, it could be 18 years before the next blackout. However, one of the things that this recent blackout, and I do not blame the ESB for it, because it was a storm after all. One of the things that it taught us, however, is how vulnerable people are. And there will be a rush to generators, and then they'll start using them all together. So they'll start using them all together so that you'll end up with a situation where the demand for electricity will go down. Most of the big data centres all have diesel engines, and big businesses will all have them. Now, for something like a sawmill, you need 3-phase. Most of the motors in big machinery is 3-phase. But if you don't need that, then the single phase is better. Now, there's 4-pole and 2-pole, and there's a lot of stuff like that. Look, I'm not going to go into it here. The 4-pole is probably better. You want one where the rotor goes round a bit slower. The slower, the better. So now, this is one of the things I want to bring to you that scares the pants off me. There's a generator that you can connect to a tractor. Now, my tractor, the main tractor, has a power take-off on it, and it's bolted on like a wheel of a car. And if you take it off, there's a little piece of steel inside, a little bolt, and if you take out that, it increases the speed of the PTO from 750 to 1,000 at 250 revs per minute, I think it is. There's a mark on the clock of the rev counter of the tractor for that purpose. Okay, so you can have that power from the power take-off for doing equipment. For most stuff like hay mowing and all that, you run them at 750. For other things, there may be 1,000, but you don't usually use the 1,000. I have never used it. But here is the big thing. When you run a generator from a tractor, you are gearing it down. You're taking the speed of the engine at 2,500 and you're reducing it down to 750. That's gears. Gears use power. The other thing is, when you're running a generator for a long time, you're upping the hours on your tractor, and that's affecting the value of it. But gears use power, so you're bringing it down 2.5 times. And then when you bring it back out to the generator, you're gearing it up. Some of them are 1,800, some of them are 3,600. So you have a gear down and a gear up, instead of having a direct drive. The ideal generator setup is where the engine drives the generator directly. Get that? Once you introduce gears, you have all kinds of things to go wrong. And so I don't like the tractor generator at all. At all. You're gearing down the speed of the engine and you're gearing it up again. And a gear up is very hard on power. If you put in 10 horsepower into a 3-to-1 gear up, you won't get 10 horsepower out the other end. You'll only get 2 about. It eats up the power because you have wheels interacting like this and bearings and all of that. A grandfather clock is the best example of a gear up, where the main wheel you wouldn't see it going round. It goes round once a day, and the escapement keeps going over and back, the pendulum, and that's designed especially to gobble up the power of the weights or the spring. So enough said there. Now, I believe they're not successful anyway. Many people that bought them don't like them. Now, and then you have to take them off and on. Now, the other thing is there are 2 types of tractor-driven generators. One has the top link and the 2 arms, the 3-point linkage, solidly linked to the frame of the equipment. That should be safe enough, in my opinion, where it's on tight to the 2 arms. The best one would be the one with the hole in it. There, my one has you clip them down, the spring in. However, they're designed not to give trouble, but if they did give trouble, you could have a situation where the generator could break free. But it's very important that the generator is solidly linked to the 3-point linkage, because if it goes to pull, it can't go round. But there's other ones of them just sitting on the ground with 2 wheels, driven direct from the PTO. What happens if there's a jam in that generator, in the gear going into it, in the bearings of it, in the spindle, in the rotor of the generator, or something catches it? Or what happens if the load is very heavy? What is to stop the whole lot spinning round? I wouldn't like to be in the town land where one of them are running, and you see people walking up to them there and they're running. There's a fair load on a generator at 5 kV, at 5 kilowatts. It's a big load. What's to stop it spinning around? I'd like anyone that knows to comment underneath. I don't think I'd go for a tractor-driven generator at all. And the word on the street is people that got them regret them. I'd go for a diesel one that'll do the business. Now remember, when you put a generator into a private house or anything, you must have an isolation switch. You either have 2 separate wiring. What I do is, if I'm using a generator, even in a domestic house or down in the shed, I just direct up. I just connect it direct. I can pull out the lights out of the mains and I can put it into the generator. That's very important. But you must not connect it up to the wiring of the house, because if you do, it'll feed back up through the wires. It could kill someone at the other end. Generally speaking, the ESP jam it anyway, but that's not neither here nor there. That's a problem. But you have to have a special switch. It has it to see the 2 wires of the generator are either on or off. They're either in the generator mode or the mains mode. They can't be in either. Some of these switches are automatic. The other thing about a generator, if it's left parked for a long time, the oil doesn't be good. It's not a good thing. They need to be run every so often, and you have to build that in. Putting on a generator every 3 months for half an hour takes time, and then the oil can get a bit poor in them. Although it will last a long time. You need good filtration. So have I made that clear? First bit of advice: you can't directly fit them into the wiring of the house without a special isolation switch. They're common enough. You buy them in most electrical places. I'd say Monaghan Electric have them in the northeast. I don't know, but I'd say they have. The second thing is, if you feed them into separate equipment, like giving a fridge a bit of a boost, you can do that if you have a separate wire, no problem. The third thing is, if you go petrol, they're handy, they're easy to pull start, they have no battery connection and all that, but they have the problem that if the float sticks, which they did on 2 of them that I had, it take you a week. You're rooting, and they say there's kits and there's this and that. It's a fault. You have only a little float. Remember, the petrol is less dense than water, and it doesn't push up the thing and it comes dripping down. It's always happening. Anyway, and the other thing too about petrol generators, never buy or touch a 2-stroke generator. Although 2-stroke is used in Land's tractors and is used in marine engines, the 2-stroke engine in a chainsaw or in a generator or any of those small equipment is really a kind of a compromise. You have the sump used to compress the mixture. You have the mixture, you have the fire and charge on top, coming pushing down the piston. What's to stop a little bit of it getting down into the sump and firing the charge in the sump? They just work because they're a kind of a best option not to have valves making an engine too heavy. So a two-stroke engine is all right in a chainsaw, in a strimmer, but it's not all right in a generator where a four-stroke will do the job. Lightness is not a big issue. Usually a four-stroke engine could be made that one person could carry it, particularly if there's wheels on it. I remember one time going fishing over the west of Ireland and the weather turned bad and we were trying to start this two-stroke generator and we were pulling at it the whole night and it never went. I nearly died with the cold. I got a dose out of it. The whole thing was freezing cold and the blankets inside in the caravan were they weren't damp, but they weren't warm either. So it was a disaster. Don't buy a two-stroke generator if you get it for nothing. If you're offered it for nothing, say no. Say no. Now the thing is that the four-stroke generator, the Honda and their clones will do the job for you all right, but you have this problem with the petrol being on top and it overflowing, the float sticking. A cursed nuisance and a danger. Now the thing is, the diesel one is grand, a single cylinder is grand, but if it's a single cylinder like a Chrysler or a Lamborghini, which are the same company, you'll have a lot of noise. But noise doesn't matter me. I bring the Lamborghini one up the hills. If I want to do a bit of welding, I bring it up on the tractor. I don't mind about the noise, you see, in that way. So it depends on that. You can get some of them that are cased in that they don't give much noise. And you see, the problem with a small engine is you have one cylinder to go up and down. If you have two cylinders and they're two-stroke, you can do this. The boat engine does this. They're alternate with two-stroke. But with a four-stroke, you have to have the two pistons going up and down together. That's the way this one fires and then this one fires. And they're not as well balanced as if they were going this way. Get the point? So their ideal one would be a three-cylinder at least, if not a four. I think some of the what do you call it, the man diesels, so some of those diesels are three-cylinder, and they're quite good. And if they're four-cylinder, then they're a bit heavy. You'd have to have ways of moving them and maybe moving them around. But on a tractor, on a farm, a transfer box will get you moved around okay. So now I'd go the wee diesel. If you're milking, now is the time to do your research. I wouldn't go into the local shop. With all due respects to all the staff there, they're not experts in this. I'd get proper advice on it and get the proper generator from a proper company supplying them, even though it might cost a bit more. Have it, and then of course you need it bolted down because it'll be robbed on you. It'll be stolen. That's another problem, so you want to have it secured in fairly well, and all the better if it's slightly hidden as well. So if you're a dairy man, this is something now you're going to have to review, and you're better off doing it right the first time and being done with it, and it'll do you your lifetime. You wouldn't wear out a good modern diesel engine in a full lifetime if you keep the filters and the oil changed. A lifetime. And so the alternator might eventually run, but if you don't overload it, it'll do a long time too. They last a long time. So there you are. Now I've given you a bit of a thing, and this thing about the diesel on the generator on the back of the PTO of the tractor, if it's not connected to the 3-point linkage, I wouldn't touch it, because I do not see what's to stop it spinning the whole thing round. There's tremendous power in a PTO, and so if you're going to go the expense of them, why not go the proper little one with the engine and all? Okay, it's a bit technical. There's 2-pole and 3-pole. A generator has to run at a certain speed, at least 1800 for the 4-pole. Poles are the number of magnetic poles inside. Some of them go 3.6. So it depends on the engine. Some of the engines are built specifically for them, and you get what you pay for. For around an ordinary private house, small wee diesel would let you out. Out in the country, you've no problem running it. You don't bother anyone. But in a town, when a housing estate, it can be a problem. It can be a problem. And the petrol one is quieter. Now, there are a lot of petrol ones being sold in the stores at the minute. That's up to you. Maybe they have a way of countering these problems. If they have that's all very fine. Another option is gas, propane gas. They'll run on gas. You see, there's no floats with gas. You just turn on the gas. A gas generator would be a good job, a very good job. Now, not a good job for portable use, but where you'd have it in one position, maybe a little special little shed out at the back of the house. you'd have one of those ones running on gas and turn it on there, you'd have a good generator too. It all depends. Then with petrol, you're paying the duty, and most people are using the other ones on green diesel. I don't know whether that's legal or not, but you don't pay so much duty. You do pay the carbon tax. It's kind of getting to the stage where we can't rely on our power supply. However, we had a terrible storm, and is there any country in the world can say it'll not have its electricity knocked out? It was a huge job. The cost is going to be loaded on the tax bill, so that your costs are going to go up again. It's going to drive inflation through the roof. We have a terrible inflation problem all over the Western world at the moment. Have I answered that fairly good? I'd like those of you who are mechanically minded to engage with me on this thing about the tractor driving the generator and the generator not linked to the tractor and the generator on wheels and it's not bolted to the ground. What is to stop the PTO spinning the whole lot round if she jams? I don't know what it would do. I don't know. We'll let you go with that. Comment underneath. Generators, for the ordinary person, I still would not be too pushed. But for the person with cows and that, and then with a business, you're into three-phase. Now, I have 3 great videos on this YouTube channel. I'll try and put links to them sometime on this 3-phase system. They're the best videos ever made on the 3-phase electric system, even though I say it myself. It's an awful pity because it's done so well and I put so much effort into it. I don't know will people want to see it, or if they do, I'll try and provide a link. I have no laptop electricity here because my internet's down. I can't go on. I can only use the smartphone. And may I compliment whoever's running it here, I have great internet on the smartphone. And that's another good reason, if your internet is out, to think of a smartphone. I can't believe how good a reception I have from the air. Very, very pleased with that, and fair play to everybody. We'll see you back. Good luck and thank you.